Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to discuss the Moonlight Abyss, and we'll go over one of the changes actually that is different this time compared to last time, and we'll also discuss the haze points that you should pick for both T30 and T80 depending on what you're trying to push. And then we'll discuss some of the units and some tips on clearing the stages, because I didn't really want to record the stages again because they're quite tedious to do. So I think it's better just to give you like more of a general guide, especially because a lot of the units that I use and like the skill ups I have on those units probably won't be like something that people will be able to replicate, or not too many people at least. So I figured it's better just to discuss the units that you can use, and we can go from there. Okay, so first off, the T30 clear. This is what I would recommend for you to select. So this minimizes the damage as much as possible, or the damage reduction as much as possible, and also like the actual damage they do to you. So there's a lot less things to worry about on T30, which is why I would recommend just clearing like easy mode T30, or it's easy mode as long as you have a decent Morgan. So for this, you don't have to like worry about the taunt immunes. You don't have to worry about reflect as well. So, and there's like a lot less damage, of course, and pretty much no unit should survive as long as you have like a well invested Morgan. It should clear everything. Like I did T30 on my alt account, which is still free to play, and I had no trouble on any stage. I didn't even need a cleanup unit. Pretty much all I really needed was a couple of buffers plus Morgan, a couple of tanks just in case, especially for the stages where I have to take, or Morgan has to take the second turn, and therefore like a unit on the enemy side might move, or it has to move actually, before Morgan attacks, and that's because I usually will have to clear out one unit in order for Morgan to reach the assault unit. But aside from that, there was not really any issue. I cleared it quite easily, and I think that's doable for most people as long as you've been following the advice, and you pulled for Morgan as one of your early customized banners, especially because you don't need her to be skilled up. Rank 0 would work fine, and yeah, you just need good cores and her to be leveled up, of course, and have some decently leveled up supports, and then you shouldn't have too much trouble with tier 30, and that will get you pretty much all the important rewards as well. Now if you can't do T30 and you have to drop it down a little further, then you just untick these these 4, and that will remove all the damage reduction on the enemy side, right? So this is especially if your cores aren't up to scratch. Try it on this. You miss out on like a little bit of rewards, but it's not too big of a deal. At least you're clearing most of it, right? And if you are able to get to hard mode anyway, you probably have a decent enough Morgan to clear out at least T20. Okay, so that's for if you're just doing like a chill clear. Now if you're trying to push for T80, then you have to select a lot more of these nodes, right? So I'm going to select the ones that I would recommend. Okay, now on this setup, I found that this setup allowed me to do the most damage and clear out the most units. There is still like a little bit of RNG, but it's manageable. And this is actually harder than last time for T80 because last time we were able to select this node, but we can't this time because they've changed this node to life potion. I'm hoping this is not a permanent thing because this just completely griefs Morgan. And if you have this on, then it means Morgan can't take out the unit and you just do her AoE pop damage, right? So you have to turn this off, So like in comparison to last time, we were able to turn whatever that node was on. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I checked my old video and this thing was ticked. And obviously that means that you can reduce the amount of damage reduction, right? These nodes could be reduced. And yeah, because I do distinctly remember that when I did T80 on the original clear, I didn't have as much issues with damage reduction as I did this time. So that is the setup I would recommend for T80. So let's go over some of the units. I'm not going to clear the whole thing, but I'm going to go in just to show what units and just some of the targeting. So obviously first off you want Morgan, right? She's the most important unit. She has to line up to take out an assault type, and that way she'll pop and do most of, she'll kill most of these units. Some units can survive, like this frog will always survive on T80. So you would need a follow-up unit to take that out, which in this case I'm using Skadi. So Skadi is probably the best follow-up unit, because any unit that Morgan can't take out, it's usually because they have very high of a particular damage reduction stat. So either res or armor or mobility, right? And Skadi does fixed damage, so it will ignore that those damage reductions, right? So she's probably the best unit for cleanup. Now, alternatively, another good cleanup unit is Hlock, if you have her invested, which probably only applies to some of the top players that are on PvP, because that's pretty much why you would rank her up, is if you care about PvP. But if you don't have her ranked up, I'm not sure if she's good enough for this. Maybe she's good enough as a meat shield, but her skills will be definitely much weaker. So, and I haven't tested how she goes with lower ranks. So some other units that you can use for cleanup, or also for like taking out a unit to allow your Morgan to reach the assault unit. So for example, there is one stage fairly early on where the assault unit is in this corner, and there's like a whole bunch of things in the way, and you can't directly target with Morgan on the first turn. So in which case you have to use a unit that moves first, or like after like a buffer. You probably still need a buffer with at least a flanker or something. So those units you can use are things like Belina, Zhao Meng, the Skadi, you can use Alice. You can also even use T30 if you have her. I did use her last month, or like the first rotation. But yeah, just use what you have, and just take note of like how they target, right? So it's good to have a good range of different units that target different tiles. For example, Alice targets second row, right? Whereas like your Belina, Zhao Meng, Skadi, they target the front row. Then you have like Kokoro Kami, who targets the back row, right? So you have different options, and use the ones that suit the stage that you're fighting on. Now, also if you're doing T80, very important is you will need some good tanks, right? Any sort of unit with a meat, like that's a meat shield, like Lulula is also pretty good. In addition to like these units, they can be used. You can even use like Jaxui with like high armor. So you can use her. Lilith will be fine. Like any unit that can be built with like high HP, because you just need them to block the attacks, right? Because they will ignore taunt. So you have to look at the attack patterns and sort of plan accordingly to that. So for example, because we know this frog is going to survive, and it's going to hit the second unit in the row, right? So you place a tank, like 2 in a row. That way, the frog will always hit that one, right? Instead of like if I was like, if I didn't put one tank there, then obviously the frog's going to hit my Tina and risk her dying, which I don't want to happen. So you position your units accordingly like that, right? And you should always check their targeting, right? So you know like what they're gonna hit if they do attack, right? I think some stages also use Julius as like another alternative tank, but she does need to be pretty decently invested because like she needs good armor and a decent HP. So it depends on how you build her for like PvP and all that. But some people do build her for DPS, but you do want her to be tanky for this. So I mentioned Lula. You could use Ashlika. You could use Gin. I don't have them leveled up on this account, but yeah, there's some other options. So Gin is like a unit that a lot of people would have built. Now, obviously the taunts won't work, but you just place her, wherever you need her to be. And the guard ones are useful if you're running like high level Hawk, because they can shield reflect, so that can be helpful. Therefore, supports, you want one that does damage reduction of some kind. So I'm using Lena, right? Because Lena does resistance and she heals as well, right? And she also does attack buff, but that requires rank 5. But yeah, she's my best support. If you don't have an invested Lena, you can also use let's see, was it Miso? Right, Miso does like a similar. She does a heal, continuous recovery, armor, right, and damage reduction, right. So she's pretty good for that, and that's just to help mitigate the reflect damage on your Morgan. The reflect isn't as big of a deal this time because you're not killing as many units, right, and therefore you're not reflecting as much damage compared to the first rotation if you're doing T80 back then. But yeah, you need some form of damage reduction and also a shield effect. So I'm using Hawk for her shield, right? If you don't have Hawk or you're not using her because she's not invested enough, then you can use Momoka as an alternative. I used her last time and it worked fine, so you could use her. Keep note also, another useful thing about Momoka is that she has a there's like she can take one hit basically, right? So this shield protects her from one instance of damage. So if you could basically position her as like a pseudo tank. If you know you're able to take out the unit that's going to hit her on the following round again, then she could take one hit and buy you some time to clean out the rest of the enemy team, or at least enough time to take out the unit that would kill her on the following turn. I think Franca and Tina are both staples. They're both only rare units. Franca is free, and you should have Tina by now if you've done like any sort of pulls. So you should definitely use both of those. But some other alternative buffers if you need like additional damage for whatever reason. Like maybe you don't have them invested enough and you need another buff. Then you could use Fleur if she is over limit. She needs to over limit to get her crit damage buff. This won't help with Morgan's pop damage, but if you're struggling to actually like kill the target, maybe it could be too tanky or whatever, then that will help you with that. But you'll probably find that it's mostly attack that you're going to be short of. You could also use Maybell as an alternative to Tina. She does attack buff as well. I think ideally you would want her to have her over limit as well. But I think Tina is more easily accessible. I would prefer to use Tina anyway. You could use Odora. She also does attack buff. Kaihua also does attack buff. Keep note though that she does, if you've awakened her, she'll do like this consume health thing. I'm actually not sure if it's awakened or not, but if it requires awakening, but that is something that she does. So if you're using both this and Tina, that it could be a little dangerous for her health pool, so just keep that in mind. That's partially why I don't use her. I think those are the main supports I can think of. You could maybe use Hoshi. She does heals, but I don't think she does a damage reduction from memory. Yeah, she's a pure healer, so she's probably not that useful. I think those are the main supports. I mean, the supports are pretty easy because you can just use Franca, Tina, and then +1, right? Which is probably going to be Miso or Momoka, probably. Maybe even use both. Alright, so I think that pretty much covers all of the units that I used when clearing the stages. So let's just go over some of the tips for like actually clearing, right? So the first tip I would recommend, if you're clearing T80 specifically, is make use of your formations. So you get 20 like slots to save your teams. So that means you could put one team per slot for like for each abyss floor, right? So you can see here, this is actually what I used last time, so the team's a little different compared to now because I don't use Starry this time. But what I did last rotation is I saved each one on each slot, and that way I could reload the team that I used for each floor, and then like start battle. You can also skip. I don't remember if you could skip last time, but if you couldn't, then they've probably have added it this time, and it's a lot quicker to go through all the stages. You just have to deal with a lot of load screens, but make use of this so that it's quicker to basically do trial and error, right? As you go through each stage, and then that way you can pick out what units are surviving, and then plan your team accordingly to that, right? Maybe even take a screenshot after your Morgan moves to see what survives, and then you can like place your follow-ups to deal with those, right? Then the other tip is make efficient use of your reset status. So if you click here, you will see like which units have died or taken damage. If they're taking damage, that's fine, because you can heal them back up on the following turns, right? Because the damage and deaths will carry over to the next stage, right? You probably would have known that by now if you've cleared normal mode, right? The difference with hard mode is that it doesn't cost you any crystals to reset. So keep that in mind. Use these wisely, and these also will refresh each time you reset the whole tower, right, or the whole floor. So if you run out of resets and you haven't cleared yet and you can't push any further, then you would go back and you would just reset the stage again. Right, so you would just, So you go back and you would reset, right? So reset progress, confirm, and then you'll go back to select your abyss nodes again, and you can go back in. Now, in addition, with regard to using your resets efficiently, don't reset if you've only lost a couple of units. Just use something else in the meantime, even if you have to use just random level 1s, right? So one thing I did was, if I needed to tank a unit, let's say my Finance was gone, right? Right, so my Finance is dead, and I need to block off this frog. I will just place a level 1 unit in that slot, and it'll let that unit be sacrificed, basically, right? Because you're gonna have so many of these level 1s that you're not gonna use, but you can make use of them by just having them as fodder, basically, and that can help you save some units, especially if you're having trouble on a particular stage where maybe there's a snake that's gonna attack. Because they did true damage, it will one-shot most of your tanks, if not all of them. So if you need to tank a snake, then you use one of the level 1s to eat the damage, right? And hopefully you have something that can clear out the snake before it attacks again, right? Now also, let's go for some more hypotheticals. Let's say your Morgan dies, right? She did get her attack off and she cleared most of these units, but your whole team dies and there's a few units left. The enemy teams, their units that have died also don't respawn when you do your next attempts, right? So you can make use of this wisely by you can finish. We probably ought to finish them off with some spare units. You can put in Coco or whatever to finish off the units. And then you'll go move on to the next stage, right? With basically just your leftover units. Keep using your leftover units until you can't go anymore, because you can keep whittling them down, especially if there's like maybe you need to clear a path for the assault unit anyway, so you can make sure that that pathway is cleared, and then on your next attempt you can line up your Morgan to take out the assault. That is like another strat you could do. Yeah, then use as many units as you can. So this also means there's a benefit of having a bigger unit pool. You can make use of it. Like for example, my Phalanx actually did die quite a lot. Just because like some of their units just do so much damage. I put her in, she'll lose her first life, and then I don't kill the units in time, and she takes like another hit and dies, right? So for that, after that, I would use like Lulala instead, like as like a just like a replacement, in the meantime until I'm ready to reset, because I don't want to reset just for Phalanx. I want to make use of my units as much as I can before I reset. And this is going to be true especially up in the higher floors where there's going to be a lot more units on the enemy side, and like it helps a lot to be able to clear out most of those units. Right, so I would say those are the main tips that help me clear my abysses, so hopefully that is helpful for you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments and I'll answer you as soon as possible. Anyway, good luck for your abyss. There's still a week left, so hopefully you can get it done by the end of it. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.